Hello, the Happy Rock Hound here. Today we are going to learn how to take something like these rocks and turn them into this. I mean, you find a lot of big rocks that don't fit in your tumbler. What are you going to do to bring the natural beauty out of them? So what we do is something called face polishing. You just polish one side. I kind of like the way it turns out. You have the raw look, and then you flip it over and you have that. Or in this case, you totally expose something new. So this blue agate here, the blue candy agate, turned out very nicely. It's a fairly simple process and not very expensive. What we use are these wet, dry diamond pads that go in a grit from 50 up to, I believe this in 6,000. And you just progress through the grits until you get the polish. One other piece of equipment is this brass diamond blade. This is used for grinding down the really rough edges. So like on this rock here, you'd have to take something like this out to get it smooth. The other part of the equipment is this variable speed grinder polisher. You can find these on Amazon, Harbor Freight, or wherever you buy your tools. I like this one because it allows me to control the speed. Many of them don't. You want to be able to use a higher speed. I like the higher speeds for the lower grits, and then as you get into the finer polishing, turn it down a little bit. Or polishing petrified wood, you don't want to open the pores on the rock, so you go a little bit slower. This is the Velcro attachment that the blades all go onto. The discs goes on like that. Other equipment that you may need is a source of water. You can use a spray bottle or a bucket. Safety-wise, when you're doing this, it's best to wear some kind of a breathing protection. So a face mask that is rated for this type of thing to get out silica dust. You don't want that getting into your lungs. I use a ground fault connection with my electrical tool here as a safety precaution. Basically, this is where all the electric is. You're not going to get it wet. You don't want to dip this in the water or anything, but that gives you an extra source of protection. Eye protection if you so desire as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this rock and we're going to see what's underneath here. A lot of times when you polish them, you find different things in the rock. This one is kind of small, it's kind of flat, so we're gonna see if there's anything behind it. It'll turn out nice one way or another, I think. But it's a good example of how to do this. It doesn't take that long. It doesn't take a lot to master it. A little bit of practice and patience. And really the cost for all this equipment was well under $100. I think I spent like $75 for everything. So we're going to get started here with the 50 grain, and we're going to start polishing this. Some people like to use the spray bottle to keep their rocks wet. Personally, I like to dip things in a bucket. But what I do to get started, I'm going to put this on about 4, turn it on, and then it's just a matter of So what I've done, I'll wait till that calms down there just a bit, is on the first rough surface, I can just go flat on it, and these are the high points. It dried those off first. So what I'll need to do is work these down so I can get this nice and smooth across here. So I'm going to go ahead and work on this for a little bit, and then we will check back in as we get a little bit closer there. So I've been working on this one now for about 6 or 7 minutes, and still on the 50 grit, the first stage. Now what I like to do also is kind of bevel the edges to give it a different look. Kind of looks better to me that way. You can still see I have a few rough spots to work out, so I'm going to keep sanding at that. But what you want to do is take your time on the first step and make sure everything's looking good before you advance. The first step takes the longest, and as you progress through the grits, you get a little bit quicker, less time on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue working on this till I can smooth all this out, and then I'll go on to the next grit. Like I say, you just want to take your time on the first grit. Really sets up how things are going to turn out. If you don't get all these little grooves out, it doesn't turn out quite as nice. So I'm going to go ahead back and finish sanding this one down and be right back. So I've been working on this one for about, maybe 15 minutes total, and I'm pretty much getting to where I can switch over to the grits. I'm going to work through this a little bit faster. I still have some pockets here. I'm going to leave those in for the sake of being a little bit quicker here. It looks like it might rain. I'd like to get done with this one today. After all, this is just really a learning video. You'll be able to see at the end why you want to get these out as well. You can see I beveled this down. I think that'll give it a better look. Kind of like a diamond, you want facets on it, so this will give it a little more character and such. One thing, as you go along, you can see even right now we're starting to get a little bit more of the character out of the rock here. One of the reasons I did this was to show that. So I'm going to go ahead and advance through the grits. One thing as I go and as I polish, I like to turn the grit, polish, turn the grit, polish, turn it, just keep turning the rock. That way the grooves of the polishing pad are kind of smoothed out as you go. So I'm going to go ahead and work up through the grits here, get back as we approach the final stage and see how it turns out. So I'm progressing through the grits right now, starting to show up a little bit better. Got this going on. I'll show you how I like to polish. Some people like to hold their polisher like this and put it down. It's a matter of preference. What I like to do, and I'll just show you. So as I go along, I want to make sure I keep going over the edges here, the beveled part, keep smoothing across the middle. But that's the process I use. I use this facing down and just kind of turn the rock underneath it, polishing everything as I go. So I'm going to keep going through the polish here. It's getting a little bit dark. I hope we don't lose light before that. Looks like it might rain. Perfect day to be doing this since I can't be out collecting. This particular piece came from Greenwater, Washington, a nice chunk of agate. You can check out my YouTube channel. I have a video of how to collect agates there. So I'm going to keep progressing through this. We'll get done with this today. So I've worked my way through all the polishes here. Maybe bring this out to a little more light. But you can see the difference. This is the kind of thing we started with. So right now this is still wet. It was very quick when I got into the rock. It wasn't one that I'd really want to spend a lot of time on. It doesn't have a lot going on in here, but it was just to show you that what you can accomplish for under $100 with, I think I spent $75 and everything. Let me dry this off. Let me dry it off again. Got wet hands. Anyway, you can see it turned out pretty decently. There's some little things going on there where had I taken more time in the first stages of the grit, I would have gotten out of there. This part here, but the beveled edge comes out very nicely. Overall, it displays pretty well, much better than just having a rock that looks like this sit around. And like I said, it's something you can learn. It doesn't take long to. I'm not an expert by any means at this. I'm learning as I go, and feel free to drop comments in the comments section if you know a better way to do things. But this is how I learned. You can do any size rock with this if you have the patience. It's a lot of fun. And once more, it's just a great way to put a little polish, face polish on something. I hope you enjoyed that. Now, if you did, don't forget to subscribe to the Happy Rockhound channel. I'll be posting more videos of how to do things with your rocks, how to find rocks, just sharing my experiences and having a lot of fun.